So I was looking up just the police reports, the Moscow police reports, because one of them popped up on my feed and it was really weird. It was kind of strange. So anyway, I looked it up, and on one of them there was a death by suicide. I think it was on November 4th. So anyway, I just looked up people that died around that time. And this isn't the person who did that, in my opinion. But I found this really interesting because I had just done recently the video and all that information on David Trail, who was the man who was murdered in 2015 by one of his tenants. And that guy also killed two other people besides him. But and he was the like the founder of the new Sigma Chi house. He was the David Trail. He was the one that purchased that house for them. I went around and, he had a band, and so he'd go around traveling. All the monies he made from that, he put towards that house. So anyway, so then I came across this, and I was like, oh, I wonder if they're related. This is Thomas Floyd Trail. And I didn't look it up. I just started reading the obituary. And so I want to read it to you. It's a nice obituary. And I'm just really wondering who this Trail family was, because on paper they seem super awesome. And I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying actually I think they are. I'm just wondering if things got out of hand for them, because they were good people. And I think you might get a little gist of it with this obituary. So I'm going to read it to you. So this is Thomas Floyd Trail, July 29th, 1935, and he passed away on November 2nd of this year. Dr. Thomas Floyd Trail was an accomplished man, Wazoo professor, Idaho State Representative, 4-H leader, Rotarian, Idaho AARP president, Sunday school teacher, devoted husband and father. While spending most of his years in Moscow, he was a world traveler, visiting and living in over 100 countries around the world. He was passionate about international cultures and invested much of his professional life living and working in the developing world, overseeing programs such as Peace Corps, Heifer Project, and international exchange programs such as the 4-H IFYE and American Field Service AFS. Tom was a Moscow, Idaho native. He was born at Gritman Hospital in 1935 and left this world Thursday, November 2nd, 2023, at 88 years of age after succumbing suddenly to multiple complications. He passed away quickly and peacefully with Ruth, his eldest child, friends and family by his side to share last words and memories. Before life support was removed. He was a man of quiet but strong faith, and we are comforted knowing he is now in a much better place. For 16 years, Tom represented the people of Latah County in the Idaho State House of Representatives, District 5. His slogan, "Constituents First," often was at odds with the politics in Boise, where he strived to work constructively across party lines. His proudest accomplishments included co-sponsoring the Promise Scholarship and Opportunity Scholarship programs for needs-based students, passing minimum wage legislation for Hispanic farm workers, revamping the Idaho... Just a minute, hold on. Okay, sorry, I had to get myself together here. Okay, where was I? Let's go here. His proudest accomplishments included co-sponsoring the Promise Scholarship and Opportunity Scholarship programs for need-based students, passing minimum wage legislation for Hispanic farm workers, revamping the Idaho Public Retirement System, PERSI, and sponsoring 3 victim ID bills that became law. He served on the Education Committee for 16 years, and on Commerce and Human Services Committee, and as a chair of the Agricultural Affairs Committee. In his last years in the legislature, leadership stripped him of his chairmanship for not voting along party lines. Let's read that again. In his last year in the legislature, leadership stripped him of his chairmanship for not voting along party lines. Following a boyhood on a North Idaho wheat and pea farm near Moscow, Idaho, graduating from Moscow High School, and with 10 years of 4-H club experience under his belt, Tom enrolled at the University of Idaho. He majored in animal husbandry and graduated in 1957. While at the University of Idaho, he was editor of the Alpha Zeta Zipper, a newsletter which received a national award. He participated on the University of Idaho livestock judging team and went to Denver, Ogden, and the Cow Palace in San Francisco. He hosted a weekly agricultural show on the local KRPL radio. International interest developed early in his career. His family hosted International Farm Youth Exchange, IFYE, from France and India. Tom applied to become an IFYE in 1956 and was the first student to travel to Nepal, where he spent 6 months. Upon his return from Nepal, he met his wife of 64 years, Joanne Smith, who was returning from an IFYE exchange to Sweden. They married on August 16, 1959 in Virginia and honeymooned in 2 cars across the U.S. He continued his studies at the University of Idaho, doing all the coursework for a Master of Science in Animal Husbandry, then received a scholarship to the National 4-H Center in Washington, D.C., and pursued a Master of Arts in Adult Education and Rural Development at the University of Maryland. Tom accepted a job with the Idaho Extension Service and in 1960 accepted a Carnegie Fellowship to the International Cooperation Center at Montana State University in Bozeman, pursuing a doctorate in experimental psychology. The next international adventure in Tom's acceptance of a heifer project position in Cuenca, Ecuador, Ecuador, working with Peace Corps volunteers. The family was transferred to Quito, then they returned to Bozeman, where Tom completed his doctoral dissertation. He accepted a job with the University of Nebraska in Chile for 3 years, then worked in Columbia for another 2 years, after which time he was employed by Washington State University as a staff development specialist, working with extension workers to create Master of Adult Education programs and advising countless PhD candidates. Both he and Joanne, along with David and Susie Trail, whom I mentioned at the beginning of this, helped start a Mountain View 4-H club in 1972, which flourishes to this day. You guys remember Mountain View on the 13th, right? In 1978, a sabbatical proposal was approved, which resulted in a South Pacific adventure for Tom and his family. They traveled and lived on the island of Guam for 4 months and the South Island of New Zealand for 6 months. In Guam, Tom served as a staff development specialist with the College of Agriculture. In New Zealand, he served as a visiting professor at the Lincoln Agricultural College. His 3 children attended local schools during this time, learning firsthand about cultural differences. In the 23 years at Wazoo, Tom had a number of short-term overseas assignments in Honduras, Guatemala, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Tajikistan, Kurdistan, Lesotho, Swaziland, Sudan, Greece, Jordan, Israel, China, and Taiwan. He was employed by the USDA to work in Malawi for 4 years, where he developed a graduate program for extension workers at Bunda College and enjoyed numerous wildlife safaris with friends and family, often characterized by his interesting sense of humor, and his occasional embellishment of historical happenings, Tom was always quick to tell a joke or share a funny story. We all have fond memories with his fascination for anything related to Bigfoot, rubber chickens, screaming pickles, and his crazy, continually escalating Christmas gift exchanges with friends. Tom was the eldest son of Floyd and Louise Wilman Trail. He is survived by his wife Joanne and his sister Marilyn Dale, her husband, his daughter Ruth, and his sons Mark and Mark's wife Lisa, Steve and his wife Debbie, and 6 grandchildren. His family has asked that anyone seeking to honor his memory do so in form of a contribution to either the following foundations: Tom and Joanne Trail International 4-H Endowment, the Gritman Foundation, the Kenworthy Performing Arts Center. Okay, so there you have that. I found both. Maybe I should read Dave Trails again, because these guys are very interesting people. I think I'll do that. So give me a moment. Okay, here is David Trail. This is Tom Trail's brother. Now, David was killed by a gunman who happened also to be a tenant who rented from him one of his apartments. And he was killed in 2015, as were 2 other people, as well as him. So 3 people were, and the man that killed him is in jail. David M. Trail, age 76, August 25th, 1938. Passed away January 10th, 2015. Last Saturday afternoon, Dave's earthly life was brought to an abrupt end by a gunman on a shooting spree. This is not Dave's first acquaintance with tragedy. During his Moscow childhood, his life was nearly ended by fire during a routine trash burn. After almost a year in local hospital beds, he overheard the doctor inform his folks, Floyd and Louise Trail. They thought I was asleep, he explained, that their badly burned little boy was not going to make it. Dave set out to prove the doctor wrong. While recovering and still confined to the hospital bed, he entertained himself by doing finger exercises so that my fingers would be strong enough to play the piano when I got out, and developing his ear and demonstrating his love for cars by listening to the sounds of car engines through the open hospital window, and guessing the make and model. I asked the nurses to run to the window to confirm my accuracy. Hold on. So I asked the nurses to run to the window to confirm my accuracy. This happy, determined little boy was one of their favorite patients. Happy determination shaped his life over the next 7 decades. While a student at the Moscow High, he owned 1,000 fryers and 250 laying hens delivering eggs by bicycle. His determination won him National Poultry 4-H Award. His zeal was contagious, perhaps genetic, as 3 of his children also went on to win 4 National 4-H Awards. 4-H stimulated his love for other interests ranging from gardening to machinery. He went on to help establish the Mountain View 4-H Club, and he had his kids raise money for family vacations by selling pumpkins each fall. His love for the garden never abated, and each fall found him busy distributing the abundance to friends, employees, tenants, and neighbors. Each Halloween, his 8 grandchildren and 4 children look forward to receiving their monogrammed pumpkins. As a youngster, David built small engine go-kart, the Jitterbug, which continues to delight his grandchildren. At the University of Idaho, he met 2 of the loves of his life, the Sigma Chi fraternity and his wife of 53 years, Susanna Shern Trail. He employed his remarkable musical ear to finance his way through college with earnings from the David Trail Quartet. He could play almost any musical instrument, with piano being his specialty. Entertaining others has been a lifelong passion, and he has continued to entertain around the region. His son Roger inherited his father's ear and has been involved in many bands during his life. When the Sigma Chi chapter of the U of I needed a new home, and while I was too young to know any better, he traveled the nation raising funds. He continued to be active in Sigma Chi after college and later raised funds for an additional and present chapter house on the U of I campus. As a long, loyal Sig, he continued serving the fraternity for the rest of his life as a perennial contributor to the chapter's scholarship funds. After many years of involvement, Sigma Chi named Dave to the Order of Constantine, the fraternity's highest honor for commitment, dedication, and service. It pleased him greatly that his 3 sons joined the Sigma Chi chapter at the University of Idaho. His eldest son, Martin, continues to serve as a chapter advisor today, and his second son, Mike, was named the International Balfour Award winner, Sigma Chi's highest undergraduate honor and the premier award for the international fraternity with over 300,000 members. While at the University of Idaho, he graduated in business and agronomy. That's so hard for me to say. Agronomy. Ugh. He met his wife Susie Shern of Coeur d'Alene and Alpha Pi. In spite of the fact that she never got to dance because Dave was always playing in the band, they married at the end of their college career and went on to be a devoted and hardworking team for 53 years as they raised their children, gardened, and ran the family businesses. Susie served as a bookkeeper for over 50 years. Not something I was particularly prepared to do as a home economics major, but we succeeded, she laughs. In 1964, after a brief stint in Spokane as a grain buyer, he accepted an offer with Northwestern Mutual, and 3 years later he returned to his hometown to rebuild the company's Moscow branch. Dave was proud and loyal to his mutual, customer-owned company because he knew that it focused on the best interest of his customers. During his career, he wrote numerous articles on estate planning and taxation, speaking over 100 times for the company around the country, which currently has over $212 billion in assets and has been listed as America's most admired by Fortune magazine for decades. Last summer, he was recognized by Northwestern's president for 50 years of outstanding service. He was proud of the fact that his business involved 3 generations, and he was working on a continuing plan with his son, Martin Trail, 34 years with Northwestern, and grandson-in-law, Justin Swift, at the time of his death. He didn't speak much about these accomplishments, and folks are often amazed that he did this from the little town of Moscow, Idaho. In the community, Dave was involved in Moscow's Rotary for 45 years. He served as president and was a Paul Harris Fellow. He and Susie often hosted the club's summer picnics on Moscow Mountain. He often played keyboard and entertained at many Rotary functions when he was not busy selling Idaho potatoes to raise funds. He truly enjoyed his friendships and service focus of the many Rotarians he met over the years. David could often be seen driving people around in one of his antique cars. He drove many dignitaries in parades and newlyweds to their receptions. This was a prime example of his quiet and humble way of serving his community. His drive to succeed in business did not overshadow his desire to help others kickstart their own careers. One attorney mentioned recently that Dave sent him so many referrals when he started his own practice that he barely had time to get his office opened. From the Moscow office, a number of national Northwestern Mutual leaders emerged. Importantly, he did not forget his own family. He once turned down a very sweet deal in Beverly Hills because he felt it was not in the best interest of his family. He knew that Moscow was a place he wanted to continue to raise his children. His daughter Kathy recalls, "Dad always provided incredible support and encouragement to me regardless of the situation." Like her father, Kathy has exhibited tremendous determination throughout her life. Dave was not always serious. He often displayed a quirky sense of humor. Former high school classmates reported various antics, including drinking the paintbrush rinse water in art class. The rinse water aftertaste has faded, but the painting still hangs in the family home. Growing up, his kids loved to sing silly songs along with him at the piano. He once had a video of himself dressed up as a termite driving a tractor across the Palouse fields. Dave communicated his love by giving. He modeled determination, honesty, and treating other people right. He always encouraged others to support their local community. All of his children grew up knowing, because of his praise, that their mom was the best cook on the planet, and that the greatest way to get in trouble with Dad was to disrespect Mom. Family survivors, in addition to his wife Susie, include his children Martin Trail and Martin's wife Julie, and children Carly and Swift and her husband, and children Carly, Swift, and her husband Justin, and Cooper Trail of Moscow, Mike Trail, his wife Elsa, and children Sophia and Olivia of Bainbridge Island, Washington. Roger Trail, his wife Alba, and children Austin and David of Clarkston, Washington. Kathy Trail and children Peter and Abby Grosson of Redmond, Washington. His siblings Tom Trail, his wife Joanne of Moscow, Marilyn Trail of Worley, Idaho, and Susan Trail of Ellensburg, Washington, and so many extended family members. Dave told others that he would work until he died, and so he did. He died doing what he loved. Happy determination, love, and loyalty defined David's life. He is irreplaceable and sorely missed. A memorial service will be held Saturday, January 17th at 11 a.m. at the Moscow Church in Nazarene with the reception to follow. Or ask that donations be made to one of the following: to Sigma Chi, to the University of Idaho Foundation on the memo indicate that 7 Founders Fund. Yep, there you have it. Okay, so